Hello and welcome to the much disputed debate of how to measure skateboards. So, there's two ways that people in the industry are measuring skateboards. One is straight across, which is the most intuitive way, the way that a lot of us do it. So this deck, for example, is 31 5/8 long. So this would be labeled as like a 31.6. The width is 8.25. It's actually a hair under, but it's an 8.25. So, the next way to measure a skateboard is with the curvature of a board. So, there's a few people that are doing this. Apparently, George Powell, so all the Powell products are measured with the concave, and P.S. Paul Schmidt is a big advocate of measuring with the concave. Now, this is not my preferred method, and first let's try and measure it that way. So, what am I going to do here? I suppose I can try and mash my tape measure down onto the board. Oh, look at that. It's a 32-ish. So that's what I've just found out. What I thought was a 31.6 is actually a 32 as I mash my metal tape measure into the deck. But I'm not entirely convinced that's accurate. So what? Could I measure across going this way? Oh. Well, no, the curve of my tape measure doesn't allow me to bend that way. If I flip my tape measure around, well, now I can't see it. So, I think you can see the first problem with this way of measuring. It is not user-friendly. So what you would need is like a tailor's tape measure, a flexible tape measure that's made for measuring around arms and waists. And do any of us actually carry these around? I can answer for myself, no, I do not carry one around. I have never carried one around, and I am not going to pick one up to measure skateboards with the curvature. So, for me, the most user-friendly way to measure a skateboard is the way using a tool that we all have at home, a straight, standard metal tape measure. Easy peasy. So that's the first reason that I think that it should be measured straight across. Now, the second reason that I believe it should be measured straight across is because when you're choosing a skateboard, so I have a range of tricks that I can do on certain size decks. So I know that if I want to skate an 8-inch deck, I can do a whole lot of flip tricks on that deck. I know if I push it up to 8.25, I can still comfortably do my tricks. As soon as it goes past 8.25, I lose the ability to comfortably do my tricks. So I like to have a pretty accurate measurement when choosing my decks. Now, if a deck has a lot of concave, it's going to read a little bit longer than a deck with little concave. And now this is marginal, right? I mean, the concave in a deck is going to add maybe, what, a 1/16 of an inch? So we really shouldn't be fussing too much about that. But if everybody is on different pages about how they're measuring, like across all the different brands, and a deck that is 8.25 is actually measuring, say, 8 3/8 or vice versa, like going backwards and forwards in different directions all the time, how are we as consumers ever supposed to nail down the exact size of a deck we like and be able to, say, order things online with any faith and certainty that we are going to get the size deck we need? And to elaborate a little bit more on that, like, the reason this matters is, so sure, technically it's more accurate to measure with the curvature, but when I'm flipping a board around, what we're doing is we're looking at the shape of a rectangle. I know that a rectangle this tall and a rectangle this wide is a comfortable rectangle for me to flip around. That's my comfort zone. And you start messing with that because of inaccurate measurements and throwing measurements like the curvature that aren't actually pertinent to that rectangle I'm trying to flip around, it doesn't make sense. And same with the length. So if I'm used to measuring straight across and I like decks that are 31 3/4, now when you look at the measurements for, say, a lot of Plan B or Toy Machine decks, they are made by PS and the measurements read like 32 1/4 or 32.4. Like, they've got all these measurements that are bigger than 32. And if I'm looking at that online, I'm gonna be like, whoa, I don't want a 32 1/4. That is way too long. Like, I'll never be able to 360 flip that deck. So I'll just shy away from even ordering them because I just don't understand why that deck is disproportionately so much longer than the 31 3/4 that I like. Whereas in fact, it is actually a 31 3/4 deck that I like a lot. So it is problematic in that way too. You just don't know how long or wide or short the actual deck you're getting unless you're totally tuned into each manufacturer's specs. So we need a uniform system of measurement, and I just propose that it should be the most user-friendly one. In fact, it's us, the consumers, that are buying decks from you, so you shouldn't be making our lives more difficult by having weird and not standard measuring systems. Third, I want to say I have never met one consumer, like one skateboarder, that goes, man, I'm really glad they measure with the Concave, because it makes my life so much easier when choosing to buy a board. I personally think we should lose the technically accurate yet problematic system of measuring with the Concave. So there you have it. Just wanted to weigh in on it. If you like this video, like it, share it. Come on, get this debate raging in the comments. If you didn't like it, hit that thumbs down. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, as am I. So thanks for watching. Let the debate ensue.